where you are joining us from tonight. And now I would like you guys to share with us how long you've been involved in 4-H. Lots of you guys are experienced 4-Hers, so that's good to see. Now go ahead and add your stamp or arrow on which best fits you. Try to use just one if you can to capture your role with 4-H, but if you need to select more than one, I understand. So are you a club officer, leader, 4-H member, a project committee or PDC officer or volunteer? Do you have a position on your federation or council? Or are you a parent joining with your kids tonight? Would you rather this or that thing? So, county fair or state fair? Which is your favorite? And go to the next one. It's another would you rather, and I'm going to clear. And even if you've never been to a 4-H camp before, choose which one you think you would like better, like a sleepaway or resident camp or day camp, no overnight. So right now, how is your club meeting? Either kind of generally, how have you, this 4-H year in person? And you can even choose outdoors or indoors on that circle, some sort of combination of the two, or mostly virtually. So and then there is the option even outside of the circles to choose other, or maybe you're not meeting right now. So what's your favorite H? There's 4 H's, as you guys all hopefully know, and which one's your favorite? Head, heart, hands, or health? Think of the pledge. Clearer thinking, greater loyalty, larger service, or better living. Glad that most of you were able to participate with the annotation in this way. But I hope you guys enjoyed that fun little tool. If you guys are meeting virtually, it can be a fun little icebreaker and way to kind of get to know each other, read the room a little bit, and who's all here. So thank you guys for helping us get to know you. And I'm gonna toss things over to Cassidy.
Hi, everybody. We're gonna play a game this next section. And if you are not familiar, it's a breakout game. And the concept is kind of like an escape room. If you've never played one of those before, that's kind of what it's like. I have done these games before in person. With 4-Hers using a box. So for those of you from Meeker County, some of you might know that already and have done one of those. This is part of the kit that we have. We are able to also make games online, digitally. And so we've made one for tonight. And this is something that you guys can share. We can make the link available to use this with your club meetings later on if that's something that's of interest to you. But what we're going to do is we're going to try and solve the mystery, and it would be helpful if you had a piece of paper and a pen or pencil to write make notes as you're going along with this. It might help you out. You're going to need to work together in teams, and so in a little bit we're going to break out into breakout rooms, and you're going to try and solve the challenge by moving through the different locks. They're virtual locks, and to solve the mystery. And we'll show you the hints and the clues, and you'll just have to indicate to us what you need us to enter to try and test your lock combination. It is a timed event, so you do have not a lot of time to solve it, so you'll have to work quickly and work together. But I wish you all good luck, and if anybody has questions as you're in the rooms, feel free to talk to your host, and once you get in the welcome back for everyone who finished early. Was it super hard or easy?
Cassidy, I would say our group, some pieces were challenging. Probably our most challenging was the second lock, which was what was the most challenging for me when I tried it myself. But I think for the most part, they figured it out pretty well. So it was good.
And my group was super fast, lot faster than I was, as you all know. And I think it seemed a little more natural for them. So I think it has a lot to do also with just explaining what they're looking for on the lock was a big part of it too. Colors or directions.
Is this something you guys could see using with your clubs, maybe? Or even if it's not this one, a game like this? Because there are other games like this out there.
Yep.
So Cassidy, in our room, we were talking about where could they find this type of platform to create that? So maybe you could share that at some point.
Yes, actually, I was going to share this game in particular. So on Friday, when we send out our follow-up email for the summit, and we're going to share some of the resources we had that we're presenting throughout the week, I will share this link to this game specifically. But a lot of the things that I access and use are from Breakout EDU. And it is a platform that does these breakout activities or escape activities. And they do online versions as well as in person. You can get a kit, which you can do in person activities. They also have some that are free, available to anybody. And so I can share the link to the breakout platform itself, and you can explore that and see if it's something of interest. But I know there was one that was really popular earlier this year, a Harry Potter breakout room, or escape game. So if there's things like that that are of interest, you guys can, search and check them out and have fun with them. Anyone else have anything to share about their breakout experience?
Yeah, our group kind of said similar things, that the second one was the hardest, which I also agreed with. And sometimes that they had to reread the instructions to actually figure out what was being asked. And then people participating in different ways. Some people are more comfortable sharing, some people aren't, but you could kind of read people's responses silently too, especially if they're sharing video. So it was fun. People said that they would try it again.
All right, well, we'll go to the next part of our evening tonight.
Hey, we wanted to take a moment, actually a few moments, to recognize the fact that there's a lot of diversity in your clubs and in your groups, and it may not be skin color, but it might be something else. And people bring a lot of values and judgments about different things with them when they are part of your group. And you all know that. Some things are tough right now because we're on Zoom all day, or we're not able to see our friends as much as we want to. That stuff affects us. And so one way that we wanted to have you think about that was just to have some reaction to some images. And so we're gonna do this activity called How Close Are You? And here, the objectives are right here in front of you. First is that we just wanna see how closely you relate to others who share similar and or different experiences. We want you to gain a deeper understanding of diversity in groups of people and hopefully gain a deeper sense of empathy, because you will better understand how different people feel about the images that come up and the activities that are associated with those images. So here's the directions. It's not very hard. You're going to use that annotate tool again, but I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share a series of 9 photos. And when you see them, you'll have about 10 to 15 seconds to look at the photo and consider what your reaction to it is. And you should use that first reaction that you have. Don't think about it too hard. Once you have done that, you can use that annotate tool again to grab a stamp like a heart or a star, and you're going to place that. It's called a Jamboard. That's what I'm going to share on my screen. You're going to place that stamp in relation to your reaction. So there'll be a white part of the screen, and then there'll be a photo in the middle, and you are going to place your stamp on that. If you really have a strong reaction to the picture, you're gonna place your stamp really close to it. Not on the picture, but really close. If you don't have much of a reaction, or you don't even know what the photo is, you're gonna place your stamp further away. Okay, does that make sense? Again, don't place your stamp right on the image. If you're on a phone, again, that annotate might be in a different place. And if you can't figure it out, don't get frustrated. Just think about the images as they come to you, and then notice, like it says in the last bullet, notice what other people's reactions are and where you might fall. So that's one of the things you want to notice while we're putting the stamp on there, is where are other people putting their stamps? Okay, so again, here is a photo, and you're going to use that annotate tool, and you're going to put a stamp on it, either close to the photo because it's something that you have a high reaction to or something that's really important to you, or you are going to put it further away because maybe you don't even know what this picture is. And as you're doing that, and as others are doing that, notice where other people are, and notice what their reactions are. Are they close to the image, or are they further away from the image? And what do you think that means? That somebody has a strong reaction or a weaker reaction. Here's photo number 2. So again, take a minute to check out that photo, and then place your stamp according to your reaction. Do you have a strong connection to that photo? Or maybe not at all? And then notice where others are putting their reactions. Are they close to you? Are they further away from you? Are you all by yourself? Is there a lot of people with you? Here's photo 3. Again, what's your initial reaction to that? Is it something you have a strong reaction to, or not a reaction? What does it make you feel like? Notice where other people are putting their reactions. Here's photo number 4. Again, what's your reaction? Maybe you don't even know what this photo is of. Maybe it's something that is really important to you. And again, notice where others have placed their reactions. Here's photo 5. Again, notice where others' reactions are in relation to yours. And think about why they might be having that reaction. And think about why you are having that reaction, or why you have that connection. Think about why your reaction is what it is, and why somebody else's reaction might be what it is. Here's photo 7. Here's photo 8. Again, notice where others have placed their reactions, and think about why. And think about why you're having the reaction you are, and what your connection to this image is. Just one more. Here's your final image. Awesome. Hey, thanks for participating in that. I am going to, and we're still getting some, great. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can take just a minute to talk about that. I'm gonna ask a few questions, and you can either, and here they are, you can either put it in the chat or go ahead and unmute. And I'd love to hear some voices. Do you think back, which photo had the most people closest to it? Do you remember?
4-H.
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 Yeah, the clover had a lot of people really close to it, right? Just about every photo had the most people furthest away from it. Do you remember back to that?
Sushi.
I
think it was the masks.
The sushi.
Hanukkah.
I feel like it was the sushi one.
Okay. Yeah, maybe sushi. If you didn't know what that was those little round things on a plate. That's called sushi. You can eat that. I think also the menorah with the candles also had people pretty far away from it, right? So think about this question. Were you closer because you had a positive or a negative reaction to the image?
Positive.
Positive?
Yep.
Positive. I see in the chat too, Christy says positive.
Positive.
Positive. Okay, thank you. Maybe though, some people put their reaction where they did because they had a negative reaction to it, right? Because I didn't give you that in the instructions. And you might feel really strongly about something, but it might not be that you like it, right? Maybe a food that you really don't like, or a place that you really don't like to go. You have a strong reaction to that, but it may not be a positive one. So that's something to consider when people come to your club meeting or at your advisory board or our leaders council meeting. People have strong reactions to things and we don't always know why. We don't know the backstory there. And that's part of being in a diverse group, is that we don't always know those things. And it's important to get to know people so that we can learn those things. But it's also important that we respect those reactions, and that helps create a better group dynamic so you can have good conversation and do your 4-H activities and learn together. How do you think people felt who were all by themselves? Or if you were all by yourself where your mark was, how did that make you feel?
In some ways, almost as if I should have been with the majority.
Okay, thanks, Greta. Yeah. Wendy says odd.
Confident in my choice that I made because it was my choice.
Awesome. Yeah, great. So that's another thing that we have to consider, is that sometimes people don't agree with us and they may be alone in what they think, but we also have to respect that in order to work with them, because we don't all believe exactly the same things.
I was just going to say, you didn't really give direction again, or you didn't say it had to be close to a group or if that symbolized anything. So it didn't really mean it was your own opinion again of where it was at, and just you really didn't know what it meant. So it's just more of where you felt you wanted to be in the circle.
Yeah, and that's kind of part of it was kind of ambiguous on purpose, because again, we don't know how people are going to react and why. And that's something that we have to be really careful about when we interact with groups of people, and know that everybody's got stuff going on. Everybody has stuff in their life and they're bringing that with them to the group. And so that is a different kind of diversity that we have to be aware of. If there is somebody who wants to share a really brief story, I know we're running behind. So about one of the photos, or talk about why they were close or far away from an image, we could take just a minute to do that if there's somebody who wanted to unmute and share that.
I'd be willing to share a story.
Okay.
So I put an X very close to the cross because I have a strong Christian faith, but I didn't put a very far away X for the menorah because my father's relatives were Russian Jews that were killed in Russia in a pogrom. And I have very strong feelings for our 4-H club about respecting people of different faiths and not assuming that everyone in our club is Christian.
That's great. Thank you for that example. That was really, really cool. Again, people have lots of stories, you all live a different life. And so we don't know what people are bringing to the table. And that's why it's really important to learn about people and learn about their experiences, so that we do have, that's a big word, empathy, right? So that we can understand their feelings. That's what empathy is about. Okay. Well, thanks for doing that with me. Hopefully that was kind of okay, or kind of fun, maybe even. That's something you could totally do with whatever pictures you wanted with your club. And young people on the call, you totally could lead that for your other 4-Hers. And then just have a little conversation about it after. And it might help you get to know a little bit more about all the people that are in your club. So that's what I have for you. Thanks for doing that with me. And I'm going to turn it back over to, I'm not sure who's next.
We wanted to just get a quick read from you guys as to where you're at and how you're feeling so far about what we've been talking about and doing, and just in general about your stuff going on this 4-H year. So we're again going to use that annotate feature. Go ahead and turn that annotate feature on. And the first question that we have for you guys is, how are you feeling about doing 4-H this year? And you can put your image or your stamp or whatever you're using to indicate on whichever emoji you're feeling about doing 4-H this year. I see lots of different reactions. Some excited maybe, some maybe a little more nervous or not so excited or frustrated maybe even. We would like to know how you're feeling about serving as a club officer or a volunteer this year. We have lots of feelings about how everything's been happening this year, so it's great to see all your different reactions. Do you feel supported by your club? And do you feel like you have the resources you need to support your 4-H work this year? Some yeses maybe, some nos, based on some of those reactions perhaps. We'll move, I think this is our last one. What has your 4-H meeting environment been like so far this year?
All right, we are going to have a little bit of discussion then around some of the lessons that you've learned from meeting since last spring, March or so, when we started all of this craziness with COVID. So some of the lessons that we've learned as staff or saw our volunteers and clubs learning is that we need to make sure that we're keeping things positive. You probably have realized that in your situations that things have to look different. Some things are good, some maybe not as good, but we have to make sure we're taking that positive spin all of the time with those things, because people are watching us. And if we're not positive, they're not going to be positive either. Another key thing that we've learned is that we need to think creatively. We need to remember as our county and club programs that 4-H doesn't always have to look the same way, and it doesn't have to always be a traditional 4-H club meeting like we're used to doing. Especially as we're looking at times when people have a lot of things going on and they're reprioritizing what things they want to continue to be involved in. We want to make sure that 4-H is one of those, which means we need to make it fun and want people to come. We also need to be considerate of people's time. We want to make sure that whether it is virtual time on Zoom or whether it is in-person time, that we are being really considerate of their time and making sure their time is worthwhile when they're with us. Another thing that we've learned is that we need to continue to engage our families. It's really easy for people to not be as actively engaged now as they may have been before, because you may not be meeting in the same way or at the same time as you have typically in past 4-H experiences. And then finally, another lesson that we have learned and want all of you to keep in mind is that we need to be asking for everyone's input when we're planning activities. So that means as you're laying out your club meeting schedule and planning for activities, we want to make sure that we're finding a way to engage all of our families in asking for what they think we should be doing and what is going to be of interest to them to get them to come to our club meetings. All right, so we are going to take a little bit of time to have some small group discussion around some of the lessons that all of you have learned during your time since last March, when things have started to look a little bit differently. So we're going to go back into, I believe, the same groups that you were in for our breakout game earlier. And there are going to be 3 main questions we want your group to talk about. Those include how are you getting people to attend virtually or in-person activities and what is working? We also want you to talk about what are some of the fun things that your club has tried or wants to try in place of a normal club business meeting. And then finally, how are you making your club activities meaningful for your members? And within your group, you will have, just like you did before, a staff person in there who will be recording some of the discussion that's happening so we can gather some of those things. And we can share with you, as Cassidy mentioned earlier, you'll get a folder of resources after the week is completed. And one of those will include a summary of the discussions that happened. So with that, I'm going to keep us moving along quick. We will go ahead and have those discussions for a few minutes, and then we'll come back into our big group to do a few things and finish the day.
Yeah, we are going to share a little bit of what we talked about in our groups. So you can either share in the chat box or you can unmute and verbally share anything that stood out from your discussion with your group. And I can also call on the different educators that were in the rooms as well.
So Anne, in our breakout room, we were talking about one of the 4-H youth leaders was talking about, she created learning opportunities on Flipgrid and shared them with her club leaders this summer.
Fun.
Her members, but things like how to plant a pumpkin or other things like that. So that was just a short, quick way of sharing information and making it really engaging and hands-on.
Fun. Excellent idea. Darcy, what about your group?
We talked a lot about being intentional in engaging your club members and what they want to do. So we had shared about, this year, some clubs took more time in planning for their charter activities and really thought about how can we plan activities that everybody's wanting to do. So we planned some girly things, we planned maybe some things that were more focused to boys, and just really asking them what they want to do more than we do in a typical year. And just a wide range of, hands-on activities. So things like going bowling or doing tie blankets or doing a Christmas party with activities, just some different ways for people to come together that aren't just based around solely a meeting. And also just some of the frustration and difficulties that come with not being able to meet in person like we typically do. And trying to make it interesting and trying to bring people back together so they can interact as much as possible.
Yeah. Joe, how about your group?
One of the really cool things I heard about was doing some virtual scavenger hunts. One of the folks said that they found a template online and then they adapted it for their club, and all the kids everybody really liked it, from the real little young kids to the older kids. So that was a cool thing to hear about. Lots of planning for outside activities in January, like tubing and sledding. Still trying to figure out how to do something so it's not just getting on a Zoom call, but I think people are trying to figure that out. And are doing a really good job. And people that were really thankful that they did have a chance to meet in October, November, real quick, even just in a small way, in person. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. Cassidy.
Our group echoed some of those same thoughts from the other groups that I've heard already. Focusing a lot on outdoor activities for this winter, ice skating, sledding, snowshoeing, also swimming. They did one of the clubs did a swimming activity. And then really focusing on it's the youth driven choices this year moving forward. Not that it isn't every year, but especially pointed out this year.
Absolutely. Thank you. Katie.
We talked a lot about some other similar things that you guys have talked about, a lot about doing service projects. So groups that are working with some local nursing homes to write letters or to deliver stocking stuffers. And a lot about that, the activities are picked by the youth in their club. Similar to what Cassidy said, that usually our activities are focused on youth, but particularly this year is that what do the youth want to get out of the club?
I should have let myself go first since I had the choice, but I didn't. And you guys have mentioned a lot of the things that my group talked about as well. They had mentioned too that at the beginning, trying to get people into Zoom was a little difficult. So it was nice to be able to plan for something in person, September, October, trying to come up with some different ideas for Zoom for those that maybe aren't comfortable. They got a chance to do like a corn maze, do some ditch cleanup and things like that. Again, we talked too about, switching like the gift exchange potluck instead into something different where you're asking the families to all reach out in a service way of some kind with, like we said, stocking stuffers, singing, outside the windows of the nursing homes, just basically trying to reach our community and encourage, our youth and our community. That was some of what we talked about.
Our group talked.
Sorry about that,
again,
Danielle.
Oh, you're fine. It's okay. We talked a lot about some of those things, but some people had some creative ways too about how they're doing kind of blended in-person and virtual stuff. One club is going to be doing a gingerbread house kind of thing at their next meeting. So they'll do it before the meeting and then kind of show it on Zoom so that they have a non-screen activity as well. And then another group some groups were able to take advantage of the nice weather and be together in person before maybe they take a break in the cold weather. And then also one group did a cool photography lesson that incorporated taking portraits of people wearing masks and then documenting their reasons why or who they're wearing it for kind of thing. So kind of a little history lesson too as kind of a part of this moment in time. So, and doing some kits kind of incorporated with project learning. So lots of great ideas.
Excellent, thank you. And again, we'll have these all typed up and we'll be sharing all these great ideas that we were shared with our groups on the document that we email out on Friday.
Go on
all right
to our next section. Anne, I believe that's you still.
Here we go. All right, well, the remainder of our time, we're going to be focusing on club support. And for those of you who have reached your max time for Zoom tonight, you can feel free to click off if you need to. But before you do, I just want you to know that we're going to be emailing an evaluation of this Leadership Summit event on Friday. And make sure you complete the evaluation. And if you put your name on there, you will get a chance to win one of the 6 $20 Amazon gift cards. So we appreciate your feedback big time. So if you complete that on Friday, then you will get your name in that drawing and then we'll let you know if you're a winner. So don't forget. Okay, and moving on to the next slide.
Do you want to maybe talk about, Anne, what this next section is going to be so people know if it is for them or not?
If you'd like to know all about reviewing club meeting expectations and touring resources for leaders, we're going to take you through the website for that. We're also going to be brainstorming some winter club meeting activities and we'll have some question and answer time also.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So if you're interested in that, hang out. We won't go past 8 o'clock, so we do guarantee you that. But yeah, if you're not interested in that and you're zoomed out for the day, we understand.
All right, so we wanted to really briefly review for you the meeting requirements for clubs, and these are not the requirements to be a club. Just make note of that. These are the requirements of things that you need to do when you actually do meet. So really, there aren't a ton of specific things you need to do as a club or requirements. The big things are that you need to meet at least 6 times per year, which hopefully it's part of your club charter that you fill in. A lot of our clubs typically are meeting every month or almost every month throughout the year, but you do only need to meet 6 times. So this may be a year when you might decide, depending upon what your activities are and what weather looks like, that you may not want to meet every month, and that is okay. So just know that. Also remember that your club meetings do not have to be about business. They don't need to include a business meeting at all. In your charter, when you're listing those 6 times, it doesn't mean that you're having 6 business meetings. It's just meaning that you're getting together those times. And I would highly encourage you right now that if there are ways that you can handle and do your business outside of your times that you may come together in person, that you consider doing that. It's really going to be important for you, especially as you're looking at winter activities, that you're spending time together as a club and making it something that everybody wants to come to. And I don't know about you, but I can speak as a 4-H parent that my young children do not want to come to 4-H for the business club meeting. That's not why they're there. That's the part that's hard to get them there for, and the part that makes me feel like a bad parent when I keep poking my children to behave and to listen for 10 more minutes before we get to do the fun thing. So now is a great time to reframe what you're doing as a club and think about your meetings in more creative ways versus just a time to get together and talk through your business pieces. Also, as a reminder, you do need to make sure that you are following the COVID-19 safety protocol that Minnesota 4-H has in place. Hopefully you've seen those. If not, we will be sharing with you a link here after a little bit that will include those things. But essentially it's those things such as making sure that if you're outside that you don't have more than 25 people gathered together in one group, or if you're inside that isn't more than 15 in a location, or 10 indoors if you are in someone's private home. And then, things as simple as, you shouldn't be having a potluck. If you're doing snacks, they should be prepackaged things, or people should be bringing their own. And like I said, we'll share with you a link to that as we get further in our evening tonight. And also, as all of you probably know, Governor Walz had some announcements last week around number of people and some of the restrictions. You may or may not be aware that those do not directly affect our 4-H program because we are an educational activity. So that means that we still can have the same numbers that were shared in our previous safety protocol for your club activities. But I would also say that right now, as case numbers are increasing and many of our schools are going to hybrid or distance learning, that it is a time for us to consider how we want to meet in person. Can we be outside? Because if we can, that is going to be probably your best bet right now. And to think about, do you really need to meet in person right now? So just some kind of things to think about as you're planning your club meeting activities. And then finally, just, that last meeting requirement, we need to make sure that we have at least 2 screen volunteers at every 4-H club activity. And that is not a new requirement either. It's something that we've always had to have, but just another reminder of that. So I'm going to turn it over to Anne here, and she's going to show you a quick online tour of some resources, and she's going to tell you that the website will look different very soon. So
oh man, you're taking away my excitement. You're taking away.
I know, but they're going to see it and be like, what is going on here? So, all right. So listen carefully, because this is going to look different than what you're used to.
All right, so if you go to the homepage for volunteers, you will see there's going to be a little red box that says go to volunteer resources. And just so you know ahead of time, I'll be sending all these links out to you. That'll be all part of that document. So if we click that, for example, we'll go to the next slide. And then on the next slide is what you will see for the brand new page. So actually, we just got the preview today as extension educators. And starting on Thursday, you will be able to access this as well. So on their page, you can see how there'll be a volunteer and club officers helpful hints. So I'm going to be giving you like about a 10-minute tour of the different things on the pages. And then you'll have a page there that will actually have everything in bold that I'm going to be clicking on, so that you'll be able to see exactly what I'm going to, so that you won't get lost. So when you click, this page used to look very different. It still looks this way now, but when you click on this on Thursday, it will look different. So it's for your volunteering with 4-H. And then on here, you'll see that there's 8 different tabs of lots of different resources. So I'm going to be clicking on some of these tabs. So working with 4-H Youth Online, this portion will cover a little bit about virtual activities you can do for your club. There's a guide for staying connected with your group, keeping young people safe online, working with youth from a distance, and helping youth thrive, creating connections virtually. And I'm going to click on keeping young people safe online. And this will bring you to a document that gives you lots of details about how to keep your youth safe online, setting up your online program for each code of conduct that also applies online, and online program expectations. So lots of great resources there. The next tab is in-person activities during COVID. Darcy's touched on that a little bit already. Under there is a video from Dr. Souza, 4-H state director, tells a little bit about some of the protocols, and there's guidelines for bringing 4-H clubs together. And also, many of you have been asked by your educator to watch a video and have your thing recorded that you've watched it. And then after you've done that, then you can let your educator know that you plan to have a meeting. So that way we can get an exemption filled out for you on that. On the next tab, you will see Federation and Councils. Under this tab, a lot of the items that are here are for your Federation or your Leaders Council. So it's mainly kind of the bigger picture. But one thing that as a club you might be using is under income. It has some fundraising forms in there. So if you're planning to do a fundraiser as a club, you could certainly go to there and download those documents. The next tab is, do I need to renew? So some of you are coming upon the 3 years as a volunteer, and I know lots of people in my county have needed to do this. So if you need to renew, it gives you all the links. Oftentimes, those are the messages that I'll get, like, where do I need to do this? Well, you can do it right here on the volunteer page. And if you do not need to review, it says it. And if you have a question, what if I haven't been screened yet? And then it tells you what you need to do and apply now. Your next tab is leading a club, lead a club. And under lead a club, there's a couple of things specifically that I want to show you. So there's lots of resources for clubs. There's a map here that shows where all the different clubs are across the whole state. There's a video that you can watch that talks about managing club videos training, good for new and old volunteers. You're going to see a toolkit for club leaders, planning worksheets, leader resource guide, officers, agendas for club meetings, lots of different things within there. I'm going to open the leader resource guide, which will be bolded on your sheet so you'll know I went here. It's going to cover some of the 4-H basics, how to join 4-H, information about club charter, club meeting tips, and then there's calendar guides. And I know that some of you might not be familiar with this, but if I click on calendar guides, it has your 4-H year separated into 4 quarters. So if I click on September, November, if I'm planning for the year for my club, it'll give me what are the basic club events that would probably happen during that quarter, and what are the local events that typically take place, and what are the state events. So it kind of gives you a window at a glance, especially if you're a new leader and you have no idea, like, what is this year supposed to look like? This will lay it out by quarter for you. Another tab on there that I'm probably not going to open is the club meeting tips. That's just another one. There were some good resources in there. Let's go to the next one, is help 4-Hers with projects. So in this one, you've got 6 different areas that they highlight specifically on this page. And if I wanted to know more about science of animals, pretty swift, I click on that. And then it says, well, what is the Science of Animals project? Well, there's a video that explains it. And then I could find out, is this something I'd be interested in? And then if I'm wondering, if I show, what kind of things would judges be looking for? And then there's an evaluation sheet to kind of let me know what judges would be looking for. On that same page, to get maybe a larger group of projects, at the very top, there's a link there to the Minnesota 4-H website. And this link takes you directly to the different projects and more. This is probably one of my favorite pages. You can watch a video here. It's about a 3-minute video, and it says, what is a 4-H project? 4 years ago, I had no idea what that meant. This video, ABCs, explains it nice and simple. If I was to click down on gardening and agriculture, because maybe that interests me, I would open that up, and then it would give me a brief overview of a bunch of different areas that I could dive into. From there, I'm going to say, well, crop and plant science interests me. So I click on that. When I get to crop and plant science, it'll then tell me, what do you do in this project? And what other areas that I would learn about? And what would I do with that if I went to the fair? And then there's even more upcoming events. If that's my area of interest, these are all kinds of upcoming events that will take place for that. So super nice and handy to go through all the different project areas to see what your interests are. The next tab is keeping youth safe at events. And just so you know, when you get on this Thursday, this has been updating all day today for me. So this looks different than it did half an hour ago. This page is great. I mean, when you guys call us and say, Ann, what do I need for this, it's all on this page. Tips for keeping youth safe during activities. It has your planning safe events, handling emergencies, safety training, a checklist for online safety, and everything you need for in-person safety COVID. So, and then as things update through the state and as policies change, these will update accordingly. So that's super neat that it's a resource that you can just jump to. And the benefits of volunteering is the last one on this page. And basically this is going to show you different trainings that I know like lots of volunteers like to go and do different trainings are available there. There's a list here for scholarships and awards. And here is your steps. So if somebody wants to know how to become a 4-H volunteer, all your steps are right there. And if they need to renew their memberships, all the steps are right there. So this is the 4-H at home page, which there is a wealth of information here. And many of you, if you've been on other volunteer calls before, you've heard about this page. On here, you've got lots and lots of hands-on activities for kids. We've got activities that you can download. So there's a huge guide that you can download. You also can do like building bridges, there's chemical reactions. If you go all the way to the bottom of this page, you can even search activities by age. So like you could type in what grade you were looking for and what topic you were looking for, and then different activities would come up. So if I was going to go under 4-H learning experiences and I was to tap on, and this one has to do with cooking, all kinds of cooking activities, I can scroll down and it'll have all kinds of recipes within this. And then when I open that, I could actually click on one, and if I view the activity, it'd give me the recipe and all the stuff that's contained within that. And there's another website that we are going to be sending to you on your sheet. And you have to fill out a little Qualtrics form for you to have access. But once you do, it's called 4-H Cares. And this came about in the last couple months where we divided a bunch of different activities into ages. So K2, 3, 5, 6, 8. And if you go to like 3 through 5th grade and you scroll down, if you look underneath different activities, you've got STEM. And then from STEM, there's lots of different activities under there. So that's another link we'll send you. And the last link that I'm going to share with you, as soon as I can make this go away, is we're also going to send you a link to this club resource folder. In here, there's 2 things I wanted to point out. One is a bunch of different Zoom games. So a lot of the clubs were looking for different Zoom activities to do with their clubs. And if they click on this one, when they get this template, there is a list of virtual Zoom activities and games 2020. And in there, there's different games like categories and would you rather, and all kinds of different games that you can incorporate into your club meeting. And the last thing I want to show you is there's meeting templates that are available. And with the meeting templates, we've created templates that are good for each month. So if I was to open up October, some of our clubs are using these, whether they're in person or virtual. And then with these, if you download a copy and make a copy for yourself, you can have your club officers or leaders can incorporate different things to make it personal to your club. You can put your club name in here, do virtual etiquette, pledges, minutes, treasure reports. And then with each of these meetings and each of your educators have a copy of these, there's an educational activity in them too. So we have these made through November. Within that is all the links in the description. When you go to the bottom, has the links of what you need, the links of where all the activities are. And we'll be creating these for January, February, March as well. So I know a lot of the clubs have had a lot of success. They've incorporated games into the slides for their in-person and their virtual meetings. So there's so many things we'd like to show you, and sometimes it gets kind of crazy, which is why we're sending you a simple sheet that will have those links for you to see a lot of the different things that are available to you as volunteers and club officers.
All right, so we're going to take a little bit of time to, as a big group, I think, because it looks like there's probably 15, 20 people left besides us as staff on here for us to chat. But one of the tools that we created to share with you as part of this leadership summit is a 4-H club meeting planning tool, and you can see it on the right side of your screen. And this is a tool for you to use to help think about and plan for 4-H club activities. And it'll be something that you probably, outside of COVID time, you also would find very useful. But on there, it just asks you to think about your club, to list, the basic information. So your date, your time, location, all of those pieces. But it also asks you to think about the number of people expected. And that is, because of COVID and because of the number of people we can have, does have some guidelines around that right now. And there also is a quick link that you can click. You can see that z.umn.edu/COVID guidelines. And if you click on that off of the form or type it in, it will take you to Minnesota 4-H's guidelines, so that you can think about all of those things that you need to have in place as you're meeting to make sure that you're keeping everyone safe. Further down that sheet, it has just a really brief place for you to list any pre-meeting activities, your discussion. You'll see each of those sections kind of look the same, but you'll list what that item is, who is going to lead it, list the supplies that you need, and then safety considerations. And that really is, tying into our COVID considerations. So, if it is a certain activity, are there things that you need to keep in mind as you're doing that to keep everybody safe? So for example, if you're planning an educational activity and it's going to be a project that all of your members are going to complete, are there things that you need to keep in mind as far as sanitation or sharing of supplies? So it'll just help you walk through some of those kind of pieces and think a little bit more about them ahead of time. And then on the flip side of that sheet, you will see we have listed some potential winter activities for your meetings. First of all, there's a big list of outdoor things. So you can see things to kind of get you started. And these are like our best kind of brainstorming, but I'm sure a lot of you have other things that are up and beyond there, but could include things like snowman building, either as a club, it could be a snowman building contest. It could be you going to nursing home or assisted living facility and building snowmen outside of their windows for the residents to be able to see and look at. Could be snowshoeing. There's a lot of cities or park systems that allow you to rent them, or you could DIY your own by searching online. You could go ice skating, snow art using colored water. So you could get water bottles or like ketchup and mustard bottles with colored water in them and use them to draw on the snow and have a little bit of fun doing that. Skiing, sledding, or tubing, those type of activities. Building a snow fort, having a snowball fight, which is always fun. Making snow angels and then potentially decorating them with birdseed and other things for the birds to eat. Another great activity, as many of these are, to do outside of windows at a nursing home or other type of facility to give those residents a little bit of entertainment, since they aren't able to have visitors like they typically would in a normal time frame. Also could be a winter outdoor fire, and maybe some fire building kind of lessons around survival. Could be ice fishing, nature trail and hikes and walks. So some of those things as well, getting out and using some of your local parks and trail systems. Could be getting out on some rinks and doing hockey or broomball. Another great activity that I had some of my clubs do last winter was to shovel out fire hydrants as a community service project around their city. And the club really enjoyed doing it and heard a lot of good compliments around that. Another would be holiday caroling or decorating outdoor trees or areas with lights as we get to holidays. And some indoor things for us to kind of think about that are outside of a traditional maybe club meeting type of activity are having project stations set up. And one of the things to keep in mind as you are doing that is that with safety protocol, to make sure that we're not switching people between groups all of the time, that you should try to stay in your same groups throughout your time together and have your project or activity leaders rotate versus having your kids rotate all over, because the less crossing over of groups and individuals that are in-person activities, the better, because that means there's less potential chance of someone who may have an exposure to COVID transferring it to the rest of your group. Also, when you're doing things like that, consider asking your participants to potentially bring supplies from home if that's doable, and to just limit your supply sharing as much as possible. But I think, the big thing to think about is, how do we think creatively and maybe differently about what 4-H activities can look like in our time right now, especially because we want to make sure that our time together is valuable to members and it's exciting for them and it's bringing them together. We talked about in our breakout group, it's been hard to get people back together, and the more fun activities we can do, the more chance we're going to be able to do that, because people will be excited to come to our activities. So now that I've shared with you some of the activities that we've come up with that you could do, we're going to take a few minutes for us to brainstorm as a group other fun activities that you can think of that your club could do this winter, either indoors or outdoors. So if you can either share those in the chat, or if you're comfortable, unmute yourself, that would be great, and share with us other things that maybe your club has talked about, or just maybe a crazy idea you have in the back of your mind that you think would be fun for your 4-H group.
I like the things that involve like no screens that I've heard people say. So kind of like the show and tell element a little bit, like do something before the meeting and then come and share with us.
I see Kelly shared in the chat that schools are doing Christmas decoration scavenger hunts. They're a pretty cool activity.
I've heard from lots of other areas of the state where they've had a lot of success with cooking activities and doing cooking together.
Mm-hmm.
Our club is filling stockings up with items that we got information from our local nursing home, things that the residents would like. So we're filling them and then they'll be delivered to them. And we've also in the past gone skiing as a club together. And sometimes the ski resorts or the ski facilities offer discounts for people who are in 4-H and that kind of stuff.
We're doing a donation drive that reminded me too with our ambassadors for local foster care nonprofit who are in need of donations at this time.
Yeah, some of the items that they were asking for the nursing homes that was unique this year was asking for hats and mittens, because a lot of them have appointments and they just don't have hats and mittens to go on their appointments. And also lap blankets, like the tie blankets with fidgets on them, that they would love to have.
Any other creative ideas you have for things to do this winter?
Yeah, our next club meeting in December is going to be that gingerbread activity that Danny mentioned, where the kids are we talked about at their last meeting, they're going to build it before the meeting. And then when they come to the meeting, they're going to show it and tell it. And so kind of interactive that way.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. We've done that with cake decorating. We did that with our ambassador group, where we had everybody make a cake ahead of time and collect supplies that they wanted. And then they had to show us their undecorated cake. And then we gave them time to decorate their cake and then gathered again and shared. And they really enjoyed that. It was a fun activity to see and do. So very cool.
Wendy mentioned in the chat Caroline, and I see some responses going through there as well. But I mean, I think outdoors distance masked is safe. I know it might be hard to hear through the windows, but I know that they'll just like to see young people's faces probably. So anything to kind of brighten up their days.
And Kelly shared about doing a cookie exchange. Instead of cookies being already made, they're going to exchange the supplies and recipes for their favorite cookies. That's a neat idea of how to do that. Well, looks like we're seeing some very good ideas. We're going to keep moving here so that we can get you through the evening. But as shared earlier, you will get an email on Friday that will include all of the resources, including this club planning sheet and that list of potential activities that you can do with your club. So please utilize those things. And if you have questions around what's okay and not okay, make sure that you reach out to your local extension educators so that they can help you in planning and thinking about the safety protocol that might go along with some of the activities that you choose to do. So, all right, you can go next slide, Danny.
Yeah, and like Darcy was saying, even if we don't have all the answers, which is definitely likely the case right now, there's not a lot of definitive answers right now. It's very much an ambiguous time that we're in. We will reach out to the people we need to in order to get you those answers. If you do have any questions, please drop them in the chat. You're welcome to stick around for a little bit and ask us. We'll stay on here for a few more minutes if you do have some questions. But also wanted to remind you, especially club officers in your clubs and groups, that stay tuned, and we hope to you guys join us later in the week for our other specific officer training sessions. So tomorrow night is reporter, then following that is president and vice president, and then on Thursday night we start with secretary, and then follow and wrap things up with treasurer. But thank you guys for joining us, and like I said, we'll stick around for a little bit with any questions you guys might have.
Feels like old times on
I
Zoom.
know, I missed everybody.
I know, we do too. So have a good night. Thank you guys.